Hello, my name is Kevin Getman. I'm with Waxy Sanitary Supply. I'm here today to provide training on the safe and effective cleanup of a bloodborne pathogen. A bloodborne pathogen can be defined as an infectious microorganism that can be found in blood or bodily fluids. We are going to go over 3 scenarios as it relates to the safe and effective cleanup of a bloodborne pathogen. We are going to go over a minor spill on a hard surface, which can be defined as a bloody nose on a table. We are going to go over a major spill on a hard surface, which can be defined as someone defecating on the floor. And then we will also go over any spill on a soft surface, on carpeted or unupholstered. Prior to any procedure, you must prepare the personal protective equipment and the custodial supplies needed for the cleanup procedure. It's extremely important that you wash your hands before you put your gloves on. All of us have bacteria on our hands. By putting a glove on, you've initiated a chemical reaction. You've taken light away, you've added heat and moisture. Any bacteria that was on your hands could exponentially grow at that point. You must wash your hands before and after any cleaning procedure. The first procedure we're going to go over today is cleaning up a minor spill on a hard surface. This could be defined simply as somebody having a bloody nose on a table. It can be defined as somebody puking on a table, throwing up on a table. We will use the bloody nose example for our cleanup procedure today. Like I said initially, it's extremely important to wash your hands. How do we wash our hands? There are several procedures out there that people follow. The one that I choose to follow is 20 seconds. Wash your hands with warm water and any hand soap for 20 seconds. Wash your palms, wash the backs of your hands, wash up to your elbows if possible. You want to try to be surgical on this. Hand washing is by far the single most important preventative measure you can take to eliminate cross-contamination. After you've washed your hands for the required 20 seconds, it's now time to put on your personal protective equipment. Personal protective equipment in this regard is going to be defined at the minimum: gloves, eye protection, and an appropriate dust mask worn the proper way. You must also dispense your disinfectant that will be used for the bloodborne pathogen cleanup. In this regard, we are going to use Diversey Alpha HP, which has a dwell time of 10 minutes. There is also a dwell time of 5 minutes if you are to clean up COVID-19. To be clear, 5-minute dwell time for COVID, 10-minute dwell time for bloodborne pathogen cleanup. Let's not let there be any confusion as it relates to both dwell times. The product that we are using is on the EPA N list for safe and effective cleanup of COVID-19 as well as bloodborne pathogens. We are now at the spill site. The example we're using today for a minor spill on a hard surface, again, is a student having a bloody nose and then bleeding onto a desk. It's extremely important to make sure that the blood that's on the desk stays there and it doesn't drip onto the floor or it doesn't run further onto the desk. You want to try to barricade or block the bloodborne pathogen spill from growing. How you do that? The first thing you want to do is take your Alpha HP that's diluted properly into a spray bottle with a proper label, and you want to spray the product onto the spill liberally. At that point, because we're applying a viscous product onto blood, it's going to have the tendency to run. You want to grab an absorbent material, microfiber cloth, paper towel, a folded towel, a rag of some sort, and you simply want to place that onto the spill. At that point, we need to apply 10 minutes of dwell time. The most important aspect of any disinfection practice is dwell time. You must achieve 10 minutes of dwell time twice for a bloodborne pathogen cleanup. After the initial 10 minutes has passed, you now apply your second application of Alpha HP. Again, the dwell time is 10 minutes. Liberally apply the spray to the spill site. Let 10 minutes go by. Take your microfiber material, wipe up the Alpha HP, visually inspect the site for no foreign matter, no blood. You want to make sure that there is nothing left on the table or the desk. It is now time to remove the absorbent material. You want to take the absorbent material and discard that into an appropriate bag. Seal the bag and take that to the dumpster. You then have covered 2 applications of 10 minutes to effectively neutralize any infectious microorganism that could have been in that bloodborne pathogen. At that point, you have completed the bloodborne pathogen cleanup on a minor spill on a hard surface. We are now going to discuss the second procedure, cleaning up a major spill on a hard surface. This could be defined as somebody puking on the floor or somebody defecating on the floor. The major difference between a minor spill on a hard surface and a major spill on a hard surface is the vehicle in which you apply the disinfectant. For the minor spill, you would use a spray bottle. For the major spill, you're going to fill a mop bucket up with about 4 inches of alpha HP. That mop bucket is only going to be used to clean up this specific bloodborne pathogen cleanup, so it doesn't make a ton of sense to waste disinfectant and water. Again, 4 inches of disinfectant into your mop bucket for this spill site. You want to make sure you have your wet floor signs up, and you also want to make sure that you have barricaded off the spill site. You want to make sure that that spill site doesn't get tracked all over the place. You want to make sure you have your wet floor signs out. You also want to make sure that you have the spill site barricaded. It also might be wise to close the bathroom down until the spill has been completely cleaned up and the floor has been dried. You must remove the organic material from the floor before you can disinfect the surface. You have to remove the bile or the fecal matter from the floor before you can apply your first application of disinfectant. This can be done in a variety of ways. I would suggest a counter brush and a dustpan. Simply use those 2 tools to remove the bile load from the floor, put that into the bag that you've set aside. Visually inspect that surface. There can be no bile load on the floor whatsoever. There can be no chunks of poop or puke on the floor. If there are, you must remove them before you can apply your first application of disinfectant. Once visually inspected, and you can be certain that there is no bile load on the floor, it is now time to apply the first application of alpha HP disinfectant. What you do, you take your mop, you simply submerge it into the disinfectant, you allow it to drip onto the spill site, but do not touch. If the mop head touches the floor, the mop head must go into the bag. You have to get a new mop head and start over. Again, do not allow the mop head to touch the floor. After 10 minutes has passed, visually inspect the floor to make sure you have removed all of the bile load. You can then take the mop, submerge it into the alpha HP disinfectant again, and at this point you can mop the floor. After the second application and 10 minutes has passed, visually inspect the floor, make sure it's completely dry, remove your wet floor sign, take your mop bucket and your mop back to the nearest custodial closet, pour the disinfectant into the floor drain, rinse out the bucket, apply disinfectant to the mop stick and to the mop bucket, and allow it to air dry. The final procedure we're going to cover today regarding bloodborne pathogen cleanup is any spill on a carpeted and upholstered item. Cleaning up any bloodborne pathogen spill on a carpeted or upholstered surface can be more problematic because you don't know how much of the biohazard has soaked into the substrate. We are going to use the example of a bloody nose on a carpeted floor for this procedure today. You want to make sure that you liberally apply your disinfectant to the spill. You want to make sure that you have neutralized the pathogens in the blood. For this, we're going to use a mop bucket. Again, you're going to only put in about 4 inches of disinfectant into the mop bucket. You want to fully submerge a clean mop head into the 4 inches of alpha HP that you have dispensed into your mop bucket. You then take that mop and allow the disinfectant to drip onto the spill site liberally. If the spill site is the size of a plate, you want to apply disinfectant to the size of a beach ball. Again, it's problematic because you don't know how much of the biohazard has soaked into the carpeting. If the spill on the top is this big, typically speaking, underneath, it's twice the size. So understand that in your mind that you need to apply twice as much disinfectant as you think you would. 10 minutes goes by, watch the clock. After the 10 minutes has passed, visually inspect the floor. Look around to make sure there is nothing left. If you see chunks of anything or you still see blood on the floor, you must go back to the first application. At that point, take your mop, fully submerge it again, and allow it to drip. For the carpet cleaning, the mop head will never touch the floor. If it does, you must start over, put the mop head into a bag, and reapply the disinfectant. Again, we're trying to achieve 2 applications of 10 minutes of disinfection for the carpeted surface. You want to make sure that you put out your wet floor signs for all 3 procedures: minor spill on a hard surface, major spill on a hard surface, and any spill on carpet and upholstery. Wet carpet can be very slick and it can be tough to see. You want to make sure you mitigate liability by putting your wet floor signs out and keeping them out until you know the floor is dry. You want to dispose of all contaminated material into the bag that you have set aside, seal that bag, and take it to the dumpster. If possible, and if appropriate, you want to get a carpet extractor to extract the site that you just cleaned. You want to ensure that you're recovering all of the solution, all of the biohazard, and using a carpet extractor is the most efficient way to accomplish that task. Upon completion of any bloodborne pathogen procedure, it is now time to remove your personal protective equipment. That can be defined as your mask, your glove, or your eye protection. The gloves and the masks are typically disposable. Remove the gloves from your hands and the mask, put it into the bag with the rest of the contaminated material, seal the bag, take it to the dumpster. How do you remove your gloves properly? Take the thumb and your forefinger of one of your hands to the palm of the opposite glove. Pull it off until your thumb is exposed. Take that thumb to the other gloved hand, put it underneath the cuff, and pull off. You then now have a surface that's not contaminated in which you can pull both gloves off, drop that into the bag with the rest of the contaminated material. Seal the bag, take it to the dumpster, and then wash your hands. Again, you wash your hands before and after any cleaning procedure. Washing your hands is by far the most important preventative measure that you can take to eliminate cross-contamination. Now more than ever, it's extremely important that we wash our hands, wash our hands, wash our hands. With COVID-19 being as prevalent as it is, there has been a heightened awareness as it relates to disinfecting of electronics. A new protocol has been put into place as it relates to sterilizing and disinfecting electronic equipment. What's being provided to the Monroe School District at this point are 70% alcohol wipes. These wipes are effective on electronics. For example, you can use these on keyboards, you can use these on mouse, you can use these on Chromebooks. Again, it's 70% alcohol, very similar to a Purell instant hand sanitizer. Wipe it and allow it to air dry. It's as simple as that.
Well, thanks, Kevin, for that great introduction and the good information about alcohol wipes. Now I'm going to demonstrate how the proper way to use the wipe on technology equipment that you might need to wipe down. Again, as I was asked by a certain leader at a certain building, don't eat them. We want to make sure that we use them for cleaning only. So before you see I have a keyboard and a mouse here, and I'm going to go ahead and wipe that down. So I have one of the 70% alcohol wipes, and simply you just want to wipe it down, kind of go back and forth, up and down. Just give it a real good wipe down. That's a keyboard, and then you can turn around and do the exact same thing with the mouse. Just kind of turn around and wipe it up like that, and then obviously you want to kind of shove those to the side and let them sit. Don't come back and wipe them with anything else. Just let them air dry, let the alcohol do its job. The other thing that some folks may want to wipe down is a Chromebook. Again, this is an optional thing. We're not advocating for Chromebook disinfection at this point because most kids should be using their own device anyway. But should you have a need to wipe down a Chromebook, this is what you would do. Basically, what you would do is you would open the Chromebook up as far as you can. And again, simple back and forth across the keyboard and the touchpad. If you have to wipe the screen down, do so very lightly. Don't push down hard. Just give it a quick light overview. And then again, back and forth on the keyboard. And then you can turn around and wipe down the outside like this. Lay it down, let it air dry, and you're set to go. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us here in the technology department. We'll be happy to help you through it at any time. Thank you. Now we're standing in front of a box-like panel, which each and every one of you have in your classrooms for teaching. These are great tools. We all know and love them, and they work well. Remember though, before you go crazy and trying to disinfect a panel, remember the guidance has been that students shouldn't actually be touching the panels, the pens, or any of that stuff. This is only for you to use during these COVID times. But should you feel the need, you would not want to use one of these alcohol wipes. No, 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 don't use that. What you want to use is a lint-free cloth that you've gotten in some warm soapy water, and then you simply just wipe it down like this, getting the surface. And you can do the same thing with the pens. You can wipe those down as well. But again, do not use the alcohol wipes. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so now we're in front of a normal desktop setup with a laptop and a couple of monitors. Again, you can use the alcohol wipes on the keyboard and on the mouse like we demonstrated previously, as well as on a laptop if you needed to. As far as the monitors go, again, we want to treat these just like we do the panels. We want to use, slightly damp with warm water, warm soapy water, and then you can simply wipe the screens down if you feel the need, okay? But again, don't use the alcohol wipes. We want to make sure that we use these lint-free cloths so that we don't damage the screens. Okay, thank you so much.
The chemicals that the Monroe School District utilizes are a diversity line of chemicals. We use Glance for multi-surface glass cleaning. We use Alpha HP for our broad spectrum hospital grade disinfectant. And we use a Stride neutral cleaner for floors. These chemicals are all intended to be diluted through a chemical dispensing system that is provided in a locked chemical closet. It's extremely important that wherever you store your chemicals, that they are locked and safe and far away from students. Chemicals should never be mixed. You are provided with a chemical dispenser which adds water to the concentrate for proper dilution. Never mix chemicals. We are now here to talk about the SDS system as it relates to the globally harmonized SDS system. In 2012, the GHS system was aligned with the world. No longer can you find an MSDS sheet. Now those sheets are referred to as SDS sheets. Why the change? The globally harmonized system is an international approach to hazard communication, providing agreed upon criteria and classification of chemical hazards, and a standardized approach to label elements and safety data sheets. That is taken directly from the OSHA website. Why did OSHA align with the GHS program? The revised standard will align with United Nations globally harmonized system of classification and labeling standards to better protect workers from hazardous chemicals and help American businesses compete in a global market. There are three significant changes from the old MSDS sheets to the SDS sheets. There's a new labeling element and requirement. There's a standardized format for the SDS sheets, and there are new hazard classifications. Why did they make the change? They made the change to improve worker understanding of the hazards associated with each chemical that you may use on a daily basis. What remains the same? The manufacturers will continue to supply the distributors with SDS sheets. The distributors, such as Waxy Sanitary Supply, will then hand the SDS sheets to you. Employers must still provide training, proper labeling, and all SDS sheets for those employees. As it relates to the Monroe School District, each chemical closet has a binder alphabetically organized with all of the SDS sheets. In conjunction with that, each school now has a chemical hygienist that can assist with any SDS needs. The new label elements include the product identifier. The product identifier will tell you which of the chemicals are hazardous. It will tell you the name, the code, and the number of that product. There's also a signal word. The signal word indicates the relative severity of that chemical, and it can include words such as danger or warning. It also includes a hazard statement. The hazard statement describes the degree of severity of the chemical. Example given: this product can cause damage to the kidneys through repeated exposure when absorbed through the skin. Merely an example. The new labeling elements also include precautionary statements. A precautionary statement can be defined as recommended measures that should be taken to minimize or prevent the adverse effects resulting from exposure. There are 4 types of statements that you can find on the new SDS sheets. Preventative, we want to minimize exposure. Responsive, what do we do if we have a situation or an incident with a given product? Storage, how do we store the product properly and safely? And disposal, how do we dispose of an empty container or actually dispose of product in accordance with local, regional, and national regulations? One of the most impactful changes to the labeling are pictograms. There are now 9 pictograms that you could find on any given SDS sheet. A pictogram is defined as a graphic symbol that will communicate the hazard of the chemical. Again, GHS has assigned 9 pictograms that you can find on any given SDS sheet. Regarding the pictograms, I feel it would be appropriate to go over all 9 pictograms to explain potential hazards as it relates to day-to-day activity. The first one is a flame over a circle, an oxidizer. For example, hydrogen peroxide, often found in general and all-purpose cleaners, is an oxidizer. A flame, flammable, self-reactive, self-heating, emits flammable gas, organic peroxides. Example, alcohol, commonly found in hand sanitizers and glass cleaners, can be a flammable liquid. Exploding bomb, explosive, self-reactives, organic peroxides. Example, ammonium nitrate used as a fertilizer is an example of a chemical with an explosive hazard. Skull and crossbones, acute toxicity, severe toxicity. Example, hydrogen sulfide, a natural occurring gas in the earth. It is toxic if inhaled at high concentrations. Corrosion, skin corrosion and burns, eye damage, corrosive to metals. An example, hydrochloric acid found in some bowl cleaners is a corrosive. Sodium hypochlorite, common in household bleach, is corrosive to stainless steels. Gas cylinder, gases under pressure. For example, nitrogen gas, which is used as a shield gas in gas metal arc welding. Health hazard, carcinogen, respiratory sensitizer, reproductive toxicity, target organ toxicity, and aspiration toxicity. For example, some graffiti removers may have carcinogens. In California, products that have a Proposition 65 warning label containing chemicals known to cause cancer, birth defects, or reproductive harm. Environmental. This is not managed by OSHA. This is managed by state and local regulations. An example of this would be an acid, a degreaser, bleach, etc. can affect waterways and marine life. Specifically in the state of Washington, we want to make sure that whatever we put in the drains does not have a negative impact upon our salmon rivers. Exclamation mark, irritant, dermal sensitivity, acute toxicity, narcotic effects, respiratory tract irritant. For example, cleaning agents have the potential to cause some irritation. Always follow proper use and personal protective equipment guidelines when using that individual product. Safety data sheets now are standardized with 16 sections that are very consistent across multiple countries. The entire concept behind the globally harmonized SDS sheet system was to create a consistent safety data sheet in one country versus another. Safety data sheets includes 16 sections. The first section is the identification section of the SDSG. The second section is the hazard identification. The third section, composition and ingredient information. Fourth section, first aid measure. Fifth section, firefighting measures. Sixth, accidental release measures. Seventh, handling and storage. Eighth, exposure controls and personal protection. Number 9, physical and chemical properties. Number 10, stability and reactivity. Number 11, toxicology information. Section 12, ecological information. Section 13, disposal considerations. Section 14, transport information. Section 15, regulatory information. And finally, Section 16, other information that could have been added after the last revision. Waxy disclaimer. This program is based upon OSHA regulations. Waxy sanitary supply makes no guarantee. This program is based upon OSHA regulations. Waxy sanitary supply makes no guarantee, express or implied. Persons using this information must make their own determination as to its suitability for their purposes in support of their own safety programs. Consult your state and local agencies for more information.